Hi there, I'm James.
I'm Richella.
And I'm Tiana.
And this is Friends in Formation, a Renovaré podcast where listener questions set the table for conversations on Christian spiritual formation.
Today we're going to have a look at, well, it's that pesky issue of legalism. So let's see how we do with that. We're going to look at friendship and how friendship doesn't need to be transactional as they often can be. And then we're going to be looking at how not to feel overwhelmed by all the books that are out there currently. Where do we start? What do we read?
Yes, this podcast is brought to you by Renovaré's Friends in Formation monthly giving community. To learn more about how to join or submit your question, just visit renovare.org/friends. That's RENOVARE.org/friends.
And Richella, it's good to be back on Friends in Formation with you. And welcome to Tiana Spencer to Friends in Formation. Welcome to the Friends in Formation studio, Tiana.
I'm glad to be here, and I love that you call it a studio. It sounds very professional.
Well, I've got this image of us having a 7-story block of offices with a massive recording suite and everything. So
World headquarters.
Let's call it that. So I'm broadcasting from the world headquarters.
Yeah.
Well, here at World Headquarters, we are so grateful for listeners' questions. I mean, that's the whole point of this podcast. And we'll tell you how to submit a question at the end of the episode.
Yeah. Well, let's jump in. We've had a question from Sharon and asks, how do we keep at bay the world's measurements or gauging when we seek to draw closer to God? And I think what she's saying here is it's easy to be running an assessment test of ourselves all the time. How am I doing? Points out of 10. Where am I at this point? And that self-analyzing, of course, self-reflection is excellent, but analyzing may not be helping us. It can sound like it's a question about perfectionism, comparison, and all that kind of thing. Well, what do you think, you guys?
Yeah, I feel like she's, what it sounds like anyways, is, perfectionism. I think any of these things, perfectionism or comparison, we're all subject to falling to them. But I feel like, less than keeping it at bay, I think I would want to begin to maybe even just get curious about why it's there. What might God be calling our attention to? I think sometimes we can just be like, we just want to like stop things and just, I don't want to deal with perfectionism. And we kind of like want to squash our humanity. When reality is sometimes in your quest to perfectionism or in your quest, comparison, there is an invitation. The Lord's like, maybe turn to that compassionately. What's going on, and maybe feel like, see if there's something there that God is wanting to heal versus just trying to, swat it away. Because this is part of life, and we will have the world always there. And so I think that I would see this as an invitation. Maybe God wants to use that to draw you closer to Him.
Wow. Yeah, that's good. That's good. I've struggled with this, I must say, this issue. I think my default was to compare myself. And it was only when I sort of really understood what Jesus's words in the Sermon on the Mount are, don't, judge. I thought it was, judging other people. They're not very good. But I think it's also comparing myself, I'm not such a good speaker or beauty or career or income or partner or whatever. And that comparison can just eat away at you. So I think that particular point, that point about avoiding comparison it's liberating if you can get there. But how do you get there? What do you think?
I think is a great question. So much so that I wrote a book
Tell
about the
us.
finding freedom from constant
Oh,
Tell
comparison.
us your.
Um,
well,
No,
there you
we need
go.
to hear this. Tell us about your book.
well, honestly, I mean, James, you say you struggled with it. Good heavens, I was born to
Mm,
it. I mean, I actually thought that I was doing my job by constantly comparing myself to other people. You know, I had
Mm,
heroes of the faith or heroes of the profession or heroes of the position, and I thought that's what I was supposed to
mm,
do, was to see how I was measuring up, or in my case, not measuring up. I thought that was part of being faithful, that I was
mm,
always supposed to be measuring myself. And um, it got to the point that I had unconsciously done what my husband helpfully said, was that I had created for myself a mythical composite woman that, you know, made up of the best attributes of everyone I knew. And I was trying
mm,
to become
mm.
her. And you can imagine how well that
Yeah,
went. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. For me, the only thing that ever offered any way out was learning more about the nature of God, which sounds so high level, but it was actually reflecting on God as Father, Son, and Spirit, a community in God's very self,
Mhm,
that made me realize that that community is actually God's
mm,
design. And so when I was trying to be all that in a bag of chips, I I was not meaning to, but I was
mm,
trying to figure out how I could be just fine on my
mhm,
own, rather than taking into myself the reality that I wasn't meant to
mm,
be just fine on my own, that I was actually
mm,
meant to rely on
mm.
others.
And your book title is,
Mythical
yeah,
me, because that's, I
I
mean,
it's a
love
great
that.
title.
oh,
You
thank
kind
you.
of think, why didn't someone else do that earlier? Because it's such a big issue. Tiana, what are your thoughts? What do you think about?
Yeah, I think that's so good. And I think, I mean, you realize, Rochelle, like you are really, you're kind of like competing with yourself in one sense. You wanted to just be all the things.
Mhm,
And I think there's some of us, that are doing that. I think for me with comparison, um, it's I've realized it's a form of grief, right? Like if I'm looking
mhm,
at someone else and I'm
mhm,
seeing something that they are, whether it's a mother or wife, reality is that means I'm grieving something I may feel like I'm not.
mhm,
And I've started to understand, I think that oftentimes it's not that we necessarily want what someone wants, but we want what that thing does for them, the feeling that you get,
mhm,
the feeling that you get of just of feeling competent and not feeling like a failure and all those things. So I feel like for me, I think I realized that I am looking around at people and I'm wanting something. So I want to be a mother. Oh, she's just such a great mother. And I just wish I could be a
mhm,
mother there. I think the reality is there's something I need to grieve. What am I actually longing for that I cannot attain right now? Like where versus like kind of looking at the other person and being obsessed with that. Like what is going on in me that I'm like
mhm,
actually I want something and I'm
Yeah.
not able to attain it. And maybe in there's an invitation of like, well, where's that desire coming from? And
mhm,
is it something that you are, when I do to my community, I've had to make a list sometimes of like calling versus compulsion. Because sometimes we feel like
wow.
everything that we have a compulsion to do, that's what we're called to do versus like trying to figure out what are we doing that we're actually just like there's a compulsion because it's coming from somewhere that we're trying to heal without actually doing the work versus what God's called me
Mm,
to. So if I'm
Wow.
struggling, I want to do that like that mom. Well, why do I want to do that? God, are you calling me to do that? Or is there something unhealthy
mm.
in me that is feeling
That's
compulsed
right.
to actually do that? And then
Mm,
what might God want to tend to in that area? Sometimes I think we can feel like every compulsion
Mm,
is
mhm.
a calling. or we want every compulsion to be a calling because we
Mhm.
think what that calling will do
Mm,
for us.
Right.
Instead, I think we are just when we are bogging ourselves down. The reality is we're getting off the mark, and there is a beautiful calling we all have that we can miss if we are so compulsed to do so many other things that we
Mhm.
feel like will give us
yeah,
something.
that's so
Mhm.
helpful. I mean, that
That's so
yeah,
good.
that
Yeah.
invitation to reflect on where is it coming from, I think that's
Mhm.
so helpful
Mhm.
what you're
Mhm.
saying there. Thank you, and
Mhm.
I love
Mhm.
that. Um,
And for me, not only where is it coming from, but what is it leading to?
mhm,
So it's been helpful for me to remember that I do have lots of goals, but really the goal is to become more like Jesus. And the answer seems to be if you're looking for a list, maybe the best list is the fruit of the
mm,
Spirit. The more we're trying to be like Jesus, the more our lives will show evidence of not page views or likes or follows, but
Yeah.
love, joy, peace,
mm,
patience, kindness,
mm,
goodness, gentleness, self-control. That am I growing in those things? And the more I clamor, or to use your wonderful word, Tiana, the more I'm chasing a compulsion, I
mm,
think the less I show of that
mm.
fruit. And I'm going to
Yeah.
trust that the more I follow God's calling, the more that fruit would
I
grow.
think
That's
that yeah,
really
no, that
helpful.
is it's so easy because we can turn all this into judgments. I mean, we can judge ourselves
Mhm.
for
Mhm.
judging ourselves. You know, where I can
Oh,
I
Right.
absolutely.
could condemn myself for condemning myself. You know, that's just
Mhm.
and it's just a zero sum game. And I think my journey has been about I just it, it comes down to what sort of a God am I following? What kind of a
Mhm.
how do I picture him? I mean, is he doing that to me? Is he looking at inches and measurements and marks
Mhm.
out of 10 and passing the test? And for much of my life, yes, that's what I thought he was. And, keep out of his way because he's going to come after you. And I found that it was that,
Mm.
and it didn't happen instantly, but that changing my, he's not measuring me. He's saying yes and yes and yes. He's not putting me through a psycho test, a psychometric test. It's not an Enneagram. It's not a Myers-Briggs. It's not a color profile. I'm all for those kind of things, but that's not how he
Mhm.
sees us. So the
Yeah.
measurements that we bring in can be so unhelpful. And I think asking ourselves, I think you're right. Just that was the thing I'm remembering is why am I doing this? Why am I doing this?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna say one last thing. I feel like because that's so good what you said, James. And I think we have to actually ask ourselves a question too, because you're looking at like, well, is God really, asking all this of me? I think another question we ask ourselves is God actually the one I'm
Yeah.
trying to please? Because
Ooh.
sometimes that's not actually who we're trying to please, right? We're trying to
Mhm.
please whoever we have made, or we projected people onto God, right? And so,
Mhm.
like you said, James, if you feel like God is measuring, and then the question I would even want to ask you was, who in your life has ever measured, some perfection or whatever that you had to go after that? Because I wonder what has been projected on God, and oftentimes
Mhm.
we're pleasing God, we want to, like, Richella said, obviously we're created to do that. We're created to live a life to want to be like him. And reality is somewhere along the way, because of the fallenness of this world, we can slowly begin to actually try to please other people,
Mhm.
and maybe even think we're trying to please God, right?
Mhm.
But it's like we don't even realize, or reality is our desire is just off. I'm like, I know that God is. I've dealt with them. I'm like, I know that God is not judging me for something. It's other people that are judging me, and that's what I'm trying to keep up with. Like I can be
Mhm.
like, oh, God is not. I know that He would not judge me about X, Y, and Z, but the other people will. And that keeps me still going after something that's unhealthy. So I think it's a question of, Richella, is God in the place that he is supposed to be in?
Mm-hmm.
And is our heart actually longing to please him? And if not, who have we put in his place?
Hmm.
Okay, let's do the second question. This question comes from Stephanie. Stephanie asks, where are the adults who want to invest time in friendship, fellowship, and just hanging together without agenda? How do we find each other? Am I being idealistic in desire for close community?
Mm.
That is such a good
Yeah.
question. Anybody want to jump in there? I
I
got
think
something
just to
already. Go ahead.
frame it in something that I'm particularly conscious of, and I see a lot of, I mean, this isn't in the wording, but peer-to-peer relationships, peer-to-peer. Because I don't know about others, but if you're in a pastoral role, it can be so easy to be the pastor, to be the
Mm-hmm.
the senior, and
Mm-hmm.
I think that can be really hard because you go, well, who can I actually let my guard down to?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
it's not just about protecting your image. It's not just about, well, I wouldn't want to be vulnerable. It's actually don't want to be unhelpful to people. Putting all the stuff on them, and they're going, I didn't expect that from you, and I don't know what to do with it. So there's an appropriateness in friendships, and it's knowing how do you build peer-to-peer friendships, not just adult-child relationships or expert pupil or professor student. I mean, it's that kind of, how do you move on from that? I mean, how's it been for you two?
Slow, long and slow. But I can honestly say right now, with some real success in a couple of places. The question was, where do you find? Where can you enter into? And I so wish the answer could be always in your local church, right?
Mhm.
That's what I wish that we could just give that as the answer and moving right along. And yet that isn't the reality for so many people. But I will say a lot of times in many local churches, you can find it really easily, but instead of going upstairs to the sanctuary, you go downstairs to the basement where the 12-step group meets. And then you
Yes.
have peer to
Yes,
peer.
ma'am. Mhm.
And I
Yeah.
don't know if either of you has ever participated in any 12-step groups. I have in
Mhm.
Al-Anon, although I didn't have a family member who was an alcoholic. I did have a family member who dealt with a different kind of issue, and the Al-Anon group welcomed me in. And it was such a relief to be among people who weren't there to impress or to uphold a hierarchy. They were just there to listen respectfully and to love and support one another. And
Yeah.
that was a great place to start, actually.
Mhm. Hmm. I do really love talking about this because I know there are so many women. This question is so common, and I
Mhm.
feel like, and I lived it up for a long time. I was looking for that same community, and I didn't know how to find it, and God actually just ended up kind of grafting me into one. A young lady, she just started. She was just like, I just want to go deeper with Jesus. She's like, hey, here's what I want to do. We want to meet biweekly, and we're just coming to go deeper with Jesus and with each other. And so we began to meet. Now I didn't know any of these women, and I was like the only Black woman and these white women, and it was like, I was like, okay, what am I doing? It was such a new thing for me, but I knew their hearts. And we got together for 4 years, and we would come, and it's like, what's going on, like what's on your heart. Really, I mean, what are you grieving? So we're getting to the point, we're getting to the real stuff and not just the surface stuff. Now, did we have fun too? Because I know the questions about fellowship and like we had so much fun, but we did not have fun at the expense of depth and care for each other. And so I think when I think about like the question, how do we find each other? That is so difficult. And I think though we often think that other people are already taken. I remember being at my birthday party. I already had a group, but I another group of friends, and I wanted another group that was more close. And I remember thinking, oh, she's in a group or she's in a group, and, whatever. And so I didn't say anything. But then towards the end of my party, one of my friends said, "Hey, we should start a life group," and everyone was like, "Yes!" And I remember just like, because we all were thinking it, but no one was going to ask, because we assumed that we wouldn't do it. And we started meeting, and we met for I think about 4 years too before I moved, and it was the same type of group. We're coming to speak the Father's heart of each other. We're coming to actually practice deep vulnerability and transformation. So I feel like for me, one how we find each other is we ask, like pray, ask God to show you, highlight some people to you. And then it's the hard part of just being brave enough to ask and to see who God would, let in. And I think ask with intention, say, hey, here's what I want to do. I want to come together, and I want to actually, process, like, what are you celebrating? What are you like expecting, or what are you longing for? These are the kind of questions that will actually help you probe, and then we can cover each other. And so I think ask with intention. This is the kind of group I want to form. And will you be interested in going deeper with each other and with
So
Jesus?
good. And I think that's really good. That prayerful reflection on who it is. Don't jump for the first person, look deeper is what you're saying. Go beyond the superficial. I mean, there's a gender thing here. Men are not so good at this. Men, I mean, that's a very broad statement, but I'm going to say it. I think there is an issue there. Men find it hard. I've been in a little accountability group for years, and 3 of us, we meet, and that is very much a response to this concern, how to build a place without an agenda. And I mean, the gift they give me is the anonymity. It's a gift of not being anybody. I mean, not, so I can go and say, hey, I've just met this important person, and and guess where I've been doing this and that. And they honestly, they don't care. They really don't care.
Yeah.
They're unimpressed. They're underwhelmed, and they'll joke and laugh about it, and they just don't take me very seriously, which is a gift, which is a real gift. And we meet and laugh. We've been through some amazing times of life, and bereavement issues, health issues, relationship issues, family issues, financial issues, and it's a precious thing, and I just hope that more people can. But that point about prayerfully thinking about it and vulnerability and so on, it's not easy. It's not, and it should be easier than it is, I think.
Well, I will make a suggestion here, just because it's something I just learned about, and I'm so taken with it. A fella who lives in Oxford, so not too far from you. His name is Sheridan Voisey. He has started an organization that's a registered charity in the UK called Friendship Lab. And it was started in response to this very kind of question. Yeah. And Friendship Lab has painstakingly developed this research-based approach for teaching the actual skill of friendship. He said, and what they realized is that everyone wants friends, But very many of us don't know how to be a
Yeah.
friend or recognize a
Yeah.
friend or build a friendship. And so Friendship Lab has actually developed a course. And I haven't done it yet in my local church, but I've thought, how great would it be just to announce at our little church that there's going to be a class for people who are interested in learning about friendship. And we
Mm.
could go through that course together. That doesn't mean we would all become friends, but it would be a place to start.
Yeah.
And I got to know Sheridan a little bit and actually got to sit under his teaching and found his teaching compelling. So I think he's on to something, that friendship, particularly developing what he calls 2 a.m. friendships. The
Mm.
person you call when everything in your life has crashed and
Yeah.
burned. There are actually things you can do to build that kind of friendship. So
Very good. Very good.
yeah.
I mean, I think this is
Mm.
profound, and church ought to be showing us how to be a friend. Give us some insight. Help us out here. Run a seminar. That would be great.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I think there's also, I think potentially could be really helpful is listening groups. This is
Mhm.
a Renovaré project that's available. Just being a listening group where
Mhm.
we do learn to listen, and not
Right?
necessarily to give people the right answer, just to be with people and accompanying
Mhm.
people. Me pausing for breath is not the signal for you to tell me what the answer to my problem is. I'm just pausing my breath. I wasn't waiting. I just need you to be there for me. I just need you
Mhm.
to be there
Mhm.
alongside me. And that's a precious, precious thing.
Mhm. It
Yeah.
is.
Gosh, we could have a whole episode on community and
Good.
friendship because it's such a hot topic and it is a passion of mine. I'm in the process of building something that actually will hopefully be a help for this area as well, just because I know
Oh,
how
good.
we are all thirsty for it. Yeah, I'm
Mhm.
so excited about it. I feel like we are all thirsty for it
Mhm.
and we are craving it, but we
Mhm.
don't know where. I do inner healing coaching with women one-on-one, and I hear it all the time. They're just like, I don't have a
Mhm.
space where I can just be
Mhm.
real. I even have my own daughter. I have permission to tell this story, but when she was going through her own mental health stuff, she was getting ready the next day to go into a facility to help kind of deal with some things, an outpatient one. But the night before, she went to youth group, and she came home and laid herself, like, threw herself on my living room floor. She was like, "Mommy, it is so exhausted pretending to be okay when you aren't." And
Oh.
I remember just getting, like, tears because she was just like, I wanna say something at youth group. They have these small groups. She's like, "But nobody
Mhm.
says anything real. Nobody says
Mhm.
what's going on.
Mhm.
And so I can't say what's going on, and I'm tired." And I think that is
Mhm.
something so many of us struggle with, like,
Mhm.
just tired of having to pretend because it's heavy. And the next day she went and to her facility, and it's more like a 12-step, and she came home, she's like, "Mommy, these kids say everything." She was just like,
Yeah.
she felt like she could actually just say something, and I think the grief is, "Oh, we need to be doing that in Christian spaces. We need to
Mhm.
be we shouldn't see more transformation in 12 step than we do small groups. Like we should be seeing transformation. And it all begins with, where are you
Mm.
really? Answering that
Mhm.
question. Where
Mhm.
Mm.
are you? And learning how to be safe people to
Right.
hold where people are, you know? And so I think
Mhm.
that's like, I sit with you guys and I just realized we could
Mm.
literally do a whole episode on this because I think
Well,
there's so
we
much.
will.
But if I could just
Absolutely.
encourage someone, just people are
Great.
looking.
Mhm.
People
We
are
should
looking.
Mhm.
definitely, let's make sure. I mean, our wonderful listeners can ask us more on that, and if
Absolutely,
people ask
right?
us, we'll
Yeah.
pick it up. Hey, I've got
Yeah.
one to ask. This is a question from Carol. How should I select books and resources from all that's there, that's available? With so many options, I want to honor and respect the inspiration, time, and talent of the people who create them, but how do you avoid being overwhelmed by all the great stuff that's there? Sometimes I feel condemned by the pile of books and saved courses. Ouch, I think is my response to that. What do you think?
Well, first I would say don't be condemned by the pile of books. I mean, and if you feel like you want to honor and respect the talent authors, the pile of books is a way you honor them because you have
That's
obviously
right.
paid for their work. And so I would say that's one reason not to feel condemned. There's many others. But I would just say you have a pile of books as a writer, we would say thank you for just
That's
the
right.
pile, and I think,
That's
I
right.
think eventually you will get to reading what you feel called to read. What do y'all think?
Amen, Tiana. That's a good reminder. But how do you get to what your soul actually
Right.
needs? I'd say the first thing is the very same answer Tiana offered about friendship was, first of all, pray about it. Actually ask God, maybe take those books out of the pile, put them before you on the table, and ask God, where should I start? Is one of these good for me?
Yeah, that's right. I think that's right. And yeah, this has been something I've had to work on a lot. If I'm going to read a book, let's just limit it. That's exposing myself. That's opening me up. I mean, there's a vulnerability when I read. Deliberately, I lower my guard to listen to what the author has to say. And that's a important thing to recognize, because we want to be careful who we expose ourselves to. There's only so much space. We've only so many hours. Our life will only allow us to read a certain amount of books. So let's be cautious about what I'm not saying we should only read books that are easy or affirming. I want challenging books as well, but I'm very aware of what I'm exposing myself to. And so prayerfully asking the Lord, is this the right one for now? Is this the right time for now? Amazon has this option of putting your list together of Amazon items. I found this really helpful. When someone says, this is a great book, you need to buy this book, I say, thank you very much. I'll add it to my Amazon list rather than ordering it right away. Because often I'm going, oh, Richella, that sounds so fantastic. I need to read that book. And I've ordered it. And I'm thinking, come on, James, you've got no time to read this book at the moment. You've got all these other ones to do. And then periodically I go down and say, oh, yeah, there's that. Oh, I forgot about that. And yes, 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 or no, no, no. I find that really helpful. And I'm very conscious of books to read at speed and those to read slowly. Some books, dare I say
Yeah.
it, can be read a bit faster than others, wouldn't you think? There are some which, especially the older books, I often use this expression, this book needs to be eaten with a small spoon. One little spoonful at a
That's
time,
so good.
Yeah.
That's so
rather
good.
than just
Yeah.
shoving it all in. And so sometimes I'll pick
Yeah.
a book thinking, oh, this is going to be quite speedy. And I go, whoa, this is profound. This is awesome. I'm going to need to set aside more time for that book. So I'm judging, I'm working through these things a lot. So I don't know if that's of any help or not.
I want to say, it'll go just a little bit, and this may, be out of place, but I do a lot of story work with people. And I think as I'm looking at the question, just how it's worded, this may not even be a thing, but Carol, I want to ask, you use language like, how do you not feel overwhelmed? And I want to honor, respect, and, have inspiration and honor the authors. And then sometimes I feel condemned. And I think I don't know if we're just being, extra in our words, or if there's really like this, it seems like there's this pressure that you are feeling to, I don't know if it's pressure to grow spiritually or pressure to, grow, in your walk with the Lord, or if there is a feeling of disobedience almost that there is. I'm just looking at the language and wondering where's the pressure coming from that you have to get through all the courses and all the books and all those things? I think I would want to pause. As I'm sitting with you, Carol, I'm thinking, what's
Yeah.
behind the condemnation about the pile
Yeah.
of books? Is there something else there? Who is putting you on a timeline? And I think maybe it's just you have a desire to learn, but then there's something again, like James said, of just taking it in slowly. I am one, like, I am a Bible teacher, but I have never read the Bible in a year. My husband used to do it every year. I just have never done it. And because I will stay on a verse for a whole week. And there's something in me, every time I've tried, I'm like, nope, I'm just here. And I think for me, it's one of those things that I love to just sit and soak and not rush. I don't even know, and this might be a shame to admit, if I've read the whole Bible. And I've been teaching it for a long time, but there's like this, I'm like, I think maybe I have, but I have never read it consecutively. And I don't feel no shame about it, okay? So I feel like there's a part of me that's like, I have soaked where the Lord has let me soak. And there has been no rush. If I've missed some books, I do this for a living, and I'm sure I still have not read every scripture, but I know I have soaked in the ones that God has called me to in the seasons he's called me to them. And I have milked them, and I have been back to those same passages, and God has given me new revelations. I just say that if there's a pressure to perform or a pressure to grow, I would sit before the Lord, show me where that's coming from. Show me if there's anything unhealthy there, if there's anything I'm trying to go after that you're not calling me to go after. And then what does it look like just to learn to be with whatever page you're on, knowing that that page is what he's called you to, and that page is what he's going to speak to you through. And whatever next season, he'll bring up the next thing, but there is no rush. So that's the kind of invitation I think
That's
I
really
would
good.
give.
That sort of
I love that.
practicing the presence, where is God now,
Yes.
not in the next book. And there can
Yes.
be this desperate, if I read more books, Richard said to us once, it's a bit of a shocker. We've got this big reading list for the Renovaré Institute and so on. And he says, well, if you read one book and are changed into becoming more like Jesus, wouldn't we settle for that rather than read all the books and not be anything more like him? I mean, it's a bit
Yep.
of a,
Yep.
whoa, that's a bit of a showstopper. But the whole system is based on more books, more consumption.
Absolutely.
Well, we'll
Yeah.
come back
Yeah.
to
Well,
this.
and to tie that back to the first question about the world's measures, I finally deleted the Goodreads app. I was inundated with lists of books that, I set myself a goal to read 100 books this year. And I found myself, Tiana, as you mentioned, feeling a little shame, like, oh, how many did I read?
No,
Oh,
please
I didn't make nearly so much.
don't do it.
It's not helpful. So read, yes, do read, please read,
Yeah, but
and
know why you're
and
reading.
just
Know why you're reading.
that's
Why are we
right.
doing this? Yeah.
That's
Hey,
right.
our
That's
time
right.
is running short. The time has gone so fast. I want to end this
It has.
recording episode with something I hope we'll do on every episode, and that is just give us just a word or two. What are you enjoying at the moment of a book, a podcast, a film? What do you play on repeat at the moment? I just love to know. Could you just give us one each?
Great question.
You go first, Richella. I'm thinking.
Okay. All right. You asked lately, so I'm going to mention a movie that I just watched. It's called Train Dreams. It's beautiful. The cinematography is just stunning. It's set in the Pacific Northwest. But I think it wasn't just the beauty that intrigued me. It's based on one person's life. And that person is not a headliner. He's not famous. He's a logger. And it's just about his one life and the way he lived it and the way he looked for love and found it.
Great.
And it really made me think. So
Sounds good. Look forward
Yeah.
to that
yeah.
one.
I started
Oh,
that. I need to go back and finish it
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I've heard a lot about it. I think I had just started getting all
yes.
spiritual again, but I really do only read certain books. But I just started reading a book that my friend here. Actually, I was just reading it this morning. Come Away and Rest. It's a guide to personal spiritual
Mm,
retreats, and I don't even know if it's available yet, pre-ordered, but it's a guide literally, first of all, just to like how to do your own retreats with the Lord. What do you do in your time with the Lord? Because sometimes we get so confused and whatnot. And she actually just gives these beautiful plans. Like she plans personal retreats for people. She's actually one of the ones that was in
Wow.
my group that we met together for 4 years, just women of depth. But she plans retreats and she now put it in a book. And it has just been I know how much she loves the Lord. It has been such a gift just to sit in this and actually get me so excited of knowing what to do the next time I go and say, I want to consecrate some time with Jesus and knowing what to do and being able to actually follow a pathway so that things don't get kind of off. So I that's just been blessing me lately. Her name's Allison Pryor and
nice.
Come Away and Rest. It's just such a
Nice.
beautiful,
Love
beautiful
it.
book.
Love it.
Hmm.
Cool. What about you,
Yeah,
James?
I've just finished an Advent book, although I thought it was for Advent and it says it's for Advent, but it is no Advent references in it. It's called, I don't know why, it's called Wounded I Sing. I think that's what it's called. Wounded I Sing. And it's by a Anglican bishop called Richard Harries, Harries, Harris,
Hmm.
and it's on George Herbert's poetry.
Oh,
It's a
wow.
slim book. It's quite new, and each day is one of George Herbert's poems, which are just amazing. They're short, they're
Mhm.
rich, they're full.
Mhm.
It's illuminated his poetry so much because you need someone to help you in, and it's just extraordinary, and it's a precious book, very easy to read it every day, and not an Advent book. You can read it anytime. So I don't understand it, but anyway, I'm sure it was a
Oh,
wonderful idea.
oh.
It's been great to have you together. Thanks, guys.
Hasn't this been
Yeah,
fun?
it's been a hoot.
Oh my
It has
Lots
word.
more to
been.
come.
Thank you so much for joining us for Friends in Formation. This podcast is made possible by Renovaré's Friends in Formation monthly giving community. Renovaré is a Christian nonprofit committed to the renewal of the church in all her multifaceted expressions. Renovaré offers resources, community, and learning experiences to help people become more like Jesus. To learn more and to submit your question, please submit your question. Do that by visiting renovare.org/friends. That's RENOVARE.org/friends. Bye for now.